idea for the show.
I still don't know what the idea is.
It's about nothing.
Right.
Everybody's doing something. We'll do nothing.
They say, what's your show about? I say nothing.
There you go.
I think you may have something here.
Cross Coast Bias presents the League About Nothing podcast.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to episode 8. This is our week 4 recap. Before we get into the recaps, we have a few things to cover. We have some waiver claims, some trades, and some injuries. Well, actually, really only one waiver claim and one trade. Let's hop right into that and announce that Trevor Siemian has been the highest paid waiver claim of the year. How do we feel about this?
Congratulations, Mr. Good News, I guess.
He certainly won the bidding and won it emphatically at that. Trevor Siemian goes to Mr. Good News for $51. That is 51% of the budget, for those who forgot how much we had. My second highest bid on Trevor Siemian was Judd at $15. Third highest was my illustrious co-host at $2. And the only other bid was Georgia Mike at $0.
I'm going to be honest,
Yeah.
I thought $2 was too much.
It's an interesting situation. We've all seen how poor Zach Wilson has been playing up until Sunday night. But it's Trevor Siemian.
You mean the Trevor Siemian that was not retained by the Bears when they decided to go with a Division II undrafted rookie free agent as their backup to a shaky Justin Fields? Or the Bengals, who had a injured Joe Burrow and decided to keep Jake Browning, who has never attempted an NFL pass, over him as the backup? It certainly looked like a benching was imminent before that Chiefs game. And even in the Chiefs game, which was probably the best he's ever looked in his career, he still was not good. So it's still possible that at some point this year, Siemian starts games for the Jets. This is not out of the realm of possibility. But 51% of your fab was very aggressive.
Well, there's not a lot of opportunities that arise where you could have a potentially starting quarterback.
Forget about quarterback. Getting a potential starter at any position off the waiver wire in this league.
That's the time to be aggressive. It's the situation that calls for it. And who knows it, if Wilson gets benched, you know that Saleh has come out at every opportunity and backed him. The team quit on him last year, but seems to be a little bit more behind him this year. So we'll see what happens there. But, you know, if you've got the opportunity to get a starter, especially at quarterback, where those do not grow on trees, they do not become available in a league this deep, I can understand why Mr. Good News made such an aggressive play.
Yeah, honestly, I expected more aggressive bidding from the rest of the league, but it seemed like Mr. Good News was the only one that received that memo.
Yeah, it was a little surprising to see such few bids. I don't have a good reason for why I didn't bid personally. I knew that I wasn't going to be bidding anywhere near that much, but I didn't expect him to go for that much either. So, one other waiver claim of note. After our in-chat lamenting and Viking funeral for Greg Dortch, Mel added Greg Dortch back the very next day for $1. So just want to mention that.
Shout out to Greg Dortch the Torch. Thought that fire had been extinguished, but apparently not. And he even got in for his first offensive snap of the year this week.
Well,
Things are looking up. It's trending in the right direction. He had 100% more snaps this week than previous weeks.
Move over Wilson. Dortch is coming back in. So we had one trade in the league in the last week between myself and Flea Flickers, wherein Flea traded away Myles Gaskin and a 2025 second round pick, and I traded away Cam Akers and a 2024 third round pick. You know how much I love talking about my own trades, but I'll just give a brief outline. I wanted to get out and get off of the Cam Akers experience. It's been a bit of a roller coaster. I am done, personally, emotionally, mentally, with that one. I know Flea is a fan of the player. I know she's happy with the purchase there currently. How do you feel about it?
The Cam Akers experience is like those roller coasters that they build at the like a local fair. the carnies are building parts out of the back of pickup trucks, putting them together. Yeah, it's been quite the experience. He was granted new life in the trade for Minnesota, so I understand both sides of the trade. Right, it was a good gamble by Flea. It didn't cost a ton, a future second-round pick, but she got a third-round pick back this year, so she gets back into this year's draft, and she gets Cam Akers, who honestly looked pretty good on Sunday, better than he has. He looked like he had some juice. His former coach, Kevin O'Connell, is with the Vikings. He knows his strengths. He knows how to use them. Madison's looked shaky at best this year. There's a chance he could carve out a role and be a useful player. It was a worthwhile gamble, I think. The price wasn't too high. And for you, I understand just getting out pretty much at any cost is probably useful. I'm sure you can just bank that future capital away. Save it for a rainy day.
She gets an extra piece to help her push this year. And like you said, that extra capital sooner, which will allow her either the flexibility of buying more players in season or when the draft season comes around, actually having a pick or two for this year. All right, so there were no other trades to cover, but we did have quite a few injuries in the league this week. It doesn't appear as though any of them are season ending or super long term, but we did want to cover a couple of them anyways, bring it up and see how it impacts some of the decision making and teams in our league. A couple of tight ends with injuries. Juwan Johnson got injured in pregame warmups and missed the entirety of the game.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened. He wasn't on the inactive list. He was expected to start, and then he didn't play at all. And the Saints didn't really provide any injury updates. The only thing I've seen is it was potentially a pulled calf that happened sometime between the hour when they announced inactives and when they kicked off. Not sure exactly what happened there. Yeah. During the game, they announced that he wasn't going to return, but he never actually appeared in the game. Yeah. It was Jimmy Graham and Taysom Hill from the start. Graham played a lot of snaps.
Yeah, so hopefully...
Because Foster Moreau was inactive as well.
Oh, I didn't even know that, was he?
He picked up an ankle injury a couple weeks ago.
That's
so
right.
He isn't playing.
I recall.
He's been inactive for a few weeks. So they were down to Jimmy Grandpa and fake tight end Taysom Hill for the entire game.
It's certainly a non-traditional combination at the position there.
The Saints were scrambling for bodies worse than some of the teams in this league. But really, these tight end injuries matter a lot in our format because nobody has tight end depth. So even if he only misses a game like this last week, it still hurts your team.
Yeah, and that's why we started with that position. The other tight end injury of note was to my team, Pat Freiermuth, who is doubtful for this upcoming week. Picked up a hamstring injury in the game this week against the Texans. So we'll see how long that lasts. He was having an MRI. I haven't been following closely today. I haven't seen if they've released any results from that.
Yeah, he's expected to miss 2 to 3 weeks. They're on bye next week, so there's a good chance he's not playing this week. And then he'll have the bye to rest, and then we'll see about the week after.
They'll probably play it safe with him. There's no reason to rush him back, and they've got other guys available at the position. They've got Washington, the rookie, and other players who they can slide in.
Yeah, Connor Haywood played a good amount as the pass catching tight end to Washington's blocking. They kind of rotated them both in during this game. There's also Zach Gentry, who used to play for them, is sitting on Cincinnati's practice squad. So there's a potential for him to get poached onto the Steelers' active roster. Also, Luke Musgrave of the Packers suffered a concussion. And so far this year, anyone has yet to return the following game from a concussion. So expect him to miss at least this week.
Kenny Pickett picked up a bone bruise in his knee. He left the game. Trubisky came in. We'll see what the prognosis is on that one, but they did say he practiced today.
Yeah, it looked a lot worse live than apparently what the actual injury was. Yeah. It looked real bad when he went down.
Yeah, people were worried that it might be a season-ending type of injury or a long-term type of injury, but he appears to have escaped the worst. So hopefully that doesn't linger, and hopefully he can come back healthy. But again, they've got the bye next week. So the week after this, I should say. They've got the bye in week 6, is it?
Yep, they've got the Ravens
Yeah.
this week and then bye next week.
Yeah, so they'll probably do the smart thing and hold him out, but 1 week shouldn't be devastating to anyone.
Yeah, I would expect Freiermuth for sure to sit, especially with the soft tissue injuries. It's just such a big risk of re-injuring it and then being out for a real long time. So smart thing, especially when you're off next week. This early in the season, you don't want something to linger deep into the year. Better to just get it healed and get back on the field when you're closer to 100%.
A couple of the quarterbacks that got hurt, but either didn't leave the game or aren't expected to miss time. Justin Herbert with the broken finger in his non-throwing hand, but again, he came back in, he played through, and they've got the bye this week. I'm sure he won't miss time on the other end of things. And then Matthew Stafford, apparently with a hip injury, but again, McVay says he'll play, Stafford says he'll play, and I don't think either one of them ends up missing.
Yeah, Stafford didn't miss any time during the game. Geno Smith left the game Monday night, but he ended up coming back, so apparently the worst is past.
Let's not talk about that game at all.
That was not a fun game to watch, even if you were not a Giants fan.
No, this has not been a fun season to watch, even if you're not a Giants fan. And hey, guess what, guys? They're going to be in primetime a whole bunch more. Get used to it.
When's that flex scheduling start?
Not soon enough. Other injuries, a couple big name wide receivers. Mike Evans with a hamstring, the same hamstring I assume he's been dealing with for the last 27 years and playing through. I wouldn't worry about it, but something to keep an eye on.
They don't think it's going to be a long-term deal, but you never know with hammies. It's so easy to re-strain it, and then you miss a month.
Another one with T. Higgins with a broken rib, or not broken, I should just say fractured rib, which is technically broken, but fractured rib. He says he might play this week, which I would frankly be shocked by, but who knows?
It's another team that has a bye next week, so maybe give him an extra week off. Rib fractures are generally just a pain tolerance thing, as long as it's not in a spot where you could re-injure it and it could puncture your lung. Generally, you can put one of those flak jackets on and play through it, but it's not pleasant.
No.
I can unfortunately tell you from personal experience.
Never played football. I've had bruised ribs. I've never had fractured ribs. And it's not a fun time even with just a bruise.
Would not recommend.
0 out of 10. No stars. Yeah, like you said, bye week in week 7. So a couple of games, maybe sits out, maybe doesn't. He is in a contract year, so it is worth noting that I'm sure he's going to try to gut it out. But if Burrow is injured and Higgins is injured, you got to imagine he's probably not going to be contributing a whole heck of a lot for fantasy purposes.
There were games last year where he was active for one play and left you with a 0.
The last one we've got is Javonte Williams with a hip flexor injury. He left the game, got filled in for by Jaleel McLaughlin, who actually looked pretty good. We'll see how long, if any time, Javonte misses, but it doesn't sound like it's going to be too bad. They don't have their bye until week 9, so chances are if he's ready to go, he'll be out there.
Yeah, the usage was interesting. McLaughlin came in and essentially took over Javonte's role as the early down back, and Pirine stayed in as the pass-catching third down back. The only difference was Pirine took over the goal line duties, but he's also about 45 pounds heavier than McLaughlin, so that makes sense.
Our league median score this week was 199.15. And as we've discussed, anyone above that gets that extra bonus win. Anyone below it, bonus. Loss. In a repeat of the first week of the season, our highest scoring team was none other than your team, Vandelay Industries, with a 248.86, beating out Benign Rugs Mr. Marbles at 130.26.
And balance was restored in the universe.
Yeah, okay.
It was restored in my universe.
So that's fair. Your own little universe that none of the rest of us are invited to, hopefully.
The only way I get any wins is if I'm the highest scoring team in the league.
It's true. If you are the highest scoring team in the league, you are 4-0. If you are not the highest scoring team in the league, you are 0-4.
Any other position,
That's,
the second to the last to the lowest score, I lose. If I'm number one, then I get wins. I just have to be the highest scoring team
So-
every week, I guess.
Yeah, you're just going to have to keep that pace going.
New strategy. My heavy investment in tight ends finally paid off this week. Cole Kmet having a big game.
End of the week with a 34. Mark Andrews, the number 2 scoring tight end on the week with a 29. Both those guys with 2 touchdowns on the day. Just a heck of a performance out of those guys.
Yeah, like I've been saying, tight ends are super important, like the most important thing ever, right? That's what I've been saying every week, how important tight ends are.
But how do you feel about the tight end position?
This week, it was definitely important. Tight ends in general have been shaky, as expected, this year.
Yeah.
We haven't had a lot of big blow up games from tight ends. This was kind of the first week where we got some really spike weeks from multiple tight ends. We had the first few weeks where it was Hunter Henry tight end 1 every week with like 50 yards. So it was nice to see some of the big names score a few touchdowns.
And speaking of Hunter Henry, he was on the other side of your matchup, actually. His 3rd week of the season, over 50 yards. So he's actually having a pretty solid year as far as tight ends are reckoned. But only 13 points this week. No touchdowns, no end zone. Will keep him a little bit lower.
Yeah, there's definitely a few teams that would be happy to have 13 points from their tight end. So solid week. It's a solid week. You know, 4 catches, 50 yards. That's a good week for a tight end in our league.
That is. But back on your side of things, you had big games from Justin Jefferson and Brandon Ayuk as well to help you out. Jefferson with a 30-point day and Ayuk with a 25-point day as well.
Jefferson actually had his worst game of the year. I mean, minus the 2 touchdowns. He only had 85 yards. That's the first time he's been under 150 this season. At least he made up for it with those touchdowns. And
I know you're half kidding when you say his worst game of the year, but looking at his game log right now, his fantasy points through 4 games, 28.75, 32.15, 32.15, 30. This dude is worth every penny of being the number 1 fantasy asset right now.
Agreed.
Thank you for your analysis, sir.
What do you want me to do? Argue against Justin Jefferson?
No, it's a fair point.
I mean, he's a close 1B to Keenan Allen. Just 1A.
Yep. There it is. Knew we'd get there eventually. So you mentioned how important tight end was about a dozen times just recently. Outside of Andrews and Kmet, you had Andrew Ogletree and David Njoku both make your lineup. We almost didn't have Njoku this week because apparently he burned his hands and face and wasn't sure if he could wear a helmet, but he got out there and had 6 receptions, 46 yards, 3 first downs, got a 16.6 in your lineup. Nice job gutting through it, I guess.
Yeah, we almost didn't have Njoku in life anymore. Somehow, while lighting the fire pit in his backyard the night before the game, he lit his arms and face on fire instead. I don't understand how he played in this game, but I appreciate the contribution. He was the Browns' leading receiver.
What a wild story that was. Just went through the whole thing in a 24-hour span. You got to imagine there was some accelerant involved there, but thankfully he's all right. And again, just another disappointing week out of the guy you traded a first-round pick for, Shaheed, not in the lineup. Over on Rug's side of things.
That's because David Carr couldn't throw more than 2 yards down the field.
No, that was tough.
Did I call him David Carr?
Did you say David Carr?
I might have. Let me.
If we did, if you did, just leave it. Don't even try to correct it. Leave this in too. We'll be fine. Oh man, whatever Carr was there.
One of the Carr boys.
The Carr boys. Oh man,
that's what I call them.
That is their name. Oof. We're off on one early today here. All right, other side of things. Disappointing day for Rugg, but again, he's sort of packed it in. I don't think he's really looking to to score a lot of points. Bryce Young continues his early season struggles, only 4.91 points on the quarterback position. His only other starting quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo, missed this week. Both of those things major contributing factors to his low score.
At this point, he's in a race to the bottom. He's trying to shed assets and lock up the likely 102 in the rookie draft. So this week was kind of according to plan for what he's looking to do.
Yeah, so a couple of good performances on his team from guys like Hunter Henry, Tyler Conklin at the tight end position, both those guys with the 50-yard weeks putting up 13 points. Solid, but nothing flashy. Curtis Samuel had a pretty nice game, 7 catches, 51 yards, rushing touchdown to go with it. Not a whole lot outside of that. Mentioned it before last week. Nice to see Wan'Dale Robinson back. Another solid performance from him as he recovers from the ACL. Christian Watson with the touchdown on Thursday night gets in his lineup, but not a ton of points, not a ton of yards to go with it. Overall, a pretty down week for his team, but again, as you said, he's trying to shed points and trying to get to that 102, so not really a disappointment for him. Our number 2 highest scoring team on the week was the Jerk Store, with Big Biscuits putting up a 245.84, beating out JMC, who takes his first 2 losses of the year with only 166.77 points. So another big week for Big and a disappointing week for JMC.
Yeah, Big's team just continues to crush. I mean, he's getting contributions up and down his lineup every week.
The most impressive ones this week coming from Nico Collins, who dropped 40 points on 7 receptions, 168 yards, and 2 touchdowns. A lot of 2-touchdown games this week. Also in his lineup with big weeks, Devon Achan. I guess he's corrected our pronunciation from Achan to Achan. Working on that one.
Are you telling me he doesn't know how to pronounce his own name correctly?
I'm going to say he probably does. I'm going to say he's correcting the rest of us.
I'm pretty sure that we're saying it right and he's just wrong.
You take that up with him. You let me know how that goes.
I'm going to write him a letter.
You do that. I don't think you know how to write, though, so I'm not really super worried about that. A big breakout game from Michael Wilson, the Arizona receiver, with a 29.35. As with every other Arizona product, he is on Big's roster, so it was only a matter of time.
And his improbable quarterback scoring run continued another week with Baker Mayfield and Josh Dobbs both putting up 25-plus points.
Well, yeah, somebody had to throw the ball to Wilson all those times.
The Josh Dobbs season has been just a pleasant surprise. Didn't look too great week 1, but he's really settled in there the last few weeks. He's turned the Cardinals into a competent team.
It's been fairly impressive. He's turned them into a competitive and competent team that still manages to lose, which is exactly what they're looking for, except for the Cowboys.
For fantasy, at least the offense has been competent enough to support multiple pieces. We were not expecting that after week 1. Certainly not in the preseason.
It's been impressive what he's managed to accomplish. I mean, he didn't have the offseason there. He's looked great. It's given them leeway that we weren't sure they would necessarily have to let Kyler take all the time he needs to fully recover.
They certainly don't look like the worst team in the league, like we kind of thought they would be coming into the season.
Yes, but I bet on the Bears to have worst record in the league this year.
That's looking like a good bet so far.
Honestly, though, I was astounded that they were I think it was 8-1 or something like that. They were the worst team in the league last year, and they didn't get any better. They made no significant additions outside of DJ Moore.
I was about to say, DJ Moore sitting in JMC's lineup was his highest score this week. Would beg to differ.
Yep. Finally showed up in a pretty big way, as did the rest of the Chicago offense, courtesy of that horrific Denver defense. You asked me on Sunday, is it too early to start looking at who Denver plays in the fantasy playoffs? Man, that defense is bad.
Start stocking up. That is a matchup to target. They can't stop anything.
No, it's been rough so far. JMC with a bit of a down week. Decent performance out of Brock Purdy, but nothing else of note at the quarterback position. We brought up the Giants earlier and how wonderfully well Danny Dimes played, so we don't need to get back into that one.
JMC's story is pretty much what we expected it to be. If his stars score a ton of points, he's going to have a good shot to win every week. If they don't, he doesn't really have the depth to kind of make up for it. So you see a down week. He missed Saquon. Higgins got hurt. Kelsey was all right. Tyreek Hill was kind of mediocre. If these guys aren't scoring huge every week, he's going to struggle.
He still managed to put up points at a few spots. He actually was very strong at tight end because he's got two absolute studs there. Travis Kelsey, obviously the tight end one, and Jonnu Smith for the fourth week in a row making his lineup, and my favorite joke for the third week in a row scoring points.
Jonnu Smith was one of the highest scoring tight ends on the week. It's not a joke anymore. He's turned into a legit fantasy asset in a league like this, much to the chagrin of the Kyle Pitts managers.
Yeah, Jonnu Smith, 6 receptions, 95 yards. Somehow only 4 first downs on those 6 receptions, but I guess a couple of them may have been short. I didn't watch very much of that game, and the part that I did was incomprehensible because it was in Toy Story format.
I was going to say, you didn't enjoy that the Toy Story-fication of the London game? I watched that start to finish.
Did you really?
My kids were enthralled. They really enjoyed it.
Why the heck were you awake at 6 a.m.?
Because I have a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old. They don't sleep.
I've got 2 2-year-olds. They didn't get up that early. I'm 3 hours ahead of you.
Well, your kids are better trained than mine, apparently.
No, they just inherited my ability to sleep. Once I go to sleep, nothing wakes me up. It's wonderful. Back to the matchup here. As you said, a bit of a down week for JMC's studs. That's going to be how his team lives and dies. And unfortunately, this week, it died. Our third highest scoring team of the week was Flinch, managing Festivus with a 242.44, beating out Mr. Good News managing Little Jerry Seinfeld at 226.23. So both these teams over the median, getting the extra bonus win, but unfortunately for Mr. Good News, only one of them could get the actual win, and Flinch took it home. A big day for Flinch with Lamar Jackson, Kyron Williams, Derrick Henry, Terry McLaurin, all coming up big. Isaiah Pacheco, Russell Wilson, all these guys between 25 and 28 points. Just nice, solid performances across the board. No massive ones, but just really, really good days for all these guys.
Flinch managed to get a few Broncos in his lineup this week, which I'm sure he was happy about.
Couple of guys in there. McLaughlin in his lineup with a 20-point taken over after, as we mentioned earlier, Javonte Williams got hurt.
McLaughlin filled in for Javonte basically 1-for-1 with Samaje Perine staying in his normal third down role.
Yeah, him having Jaleel McLaughlin on his bench since early offseason has certainly paid off here. He added him off of waivers back on June 11th. He's certainly playing the long game on that one.
He's got that advantage. He's a Broncos fan. He probably follows the training camp news. Saw right away that the undrafted free agent was making a lot of noise, stuff that we all saw later on. But he was definitely quick to act, and it paid off this week.
On the other side of things, a solid game from Mr. Good News. He, as we said, beat out the league median by 27 points, but he was unable to overcome Flinch.
Yeah, he was the 4th highest score on the week. He just happened to play the 3rd highest score on the week, unfortunately for him.
Big days from Puka Nacua with 37 points. Josh Jacobs finally showing up like he did all of last year with 30 points. Justin Herbert, the 23. And after that, he's got a string of guys who just have between 14 and 18 points. Everyone in his lineup right on down to the very end of his roster in double-digit production. Solid production from his tight ends, Higbee and Schultz, both around 16 points. but none of those other big spike weeks that would have pushed him all the way over the top.
Yeah, he had a really balanced week.
The only one thing of note I do want to point out is that his Superflex spot was filled by Noah Fant with a 10.80. Kenny Pickett and Ryan Tannehill both with sort of down days. Trevor Siemian in the lineup, but not yet active for the Jets, so no help there.
That explains the aggressive Trevor Siemian bid.
The names that I just read, Kenny Pickett and Ryan Tannehill, yeah, I'd be bidding too.
Tannehill had one of his better games of the year, and it was still not enough to get in the lineup.
That situation does not look great in Tennessee. I mean, they got a big win. They didn't really need anything, but they didn't really need a whole heck of a lot out of Tannehill because Derrick Henry threw a touchdown and rushed for another. Unfortunately for Mr. Good News, he was trying to roster Tannehill and was facing Derrick Henry.
Between the two of us, we own pretty much all of the relevant passing game weapons. I'm using weapons with air quotes because it's the Tennessee Titans. But between the two of us, we own pretty much all the relevant pieces, and it has not been an enjoyable season so far.
Yeah, it has not been great. I didn't mention it when we were in the last matchup, but Westbrook-Akine had 51 yards and a touchdown. So he made JMC's lineup. Obviously, that's exactly what you and I were hoping to see.
Yeah, especially since I'm the one that traded Westbrook-Akine to him, as usual.
See, it doesn't count when you've traded away literally 50% of the players in the league. You could just say that about anyone and it's true.
Imagine what my team would look like if I just kept all these guys. I mean, I don't have 600 roster spots, so it's not really possible.
I haven't done the math, but if a player hasn't been on the same roster since they entered the league or since our startup, there's at least a 50% chance they've been on your roster. Probably greater than that.
I'm not going to vet that. It sounds right.
Our fourth highest scoring matchup of the week was Mel Crisp finally getting his first 2-win week, beating out Flea Flickers with a score of 212.05 to a 165.1. Mel finally gets his double win.
He was finally on the right side of one of these high scoring matchups.
The big one for Mel here was that he had the highest scoring quarterback of the week, Josh Allen, with a 39.5, and the highest scoring wide receiver of the week, A.J. Brown, with a 43.25. Those two players combining for 80 points plus is certainly a good start.
Yeah, and Justin Fields got to play the Broncos, so of course he went off for his first career 300-yard passing game.
Yep, and that was good enough to get him 30 points in the Superflex spot, which 3 players combining for over 100 points is certainly going to put you well on the way to a nice win. Big days outside of that from DeAndre Swift. Jamar Chase continues his compiling of stats. He had another 7 for 73 this week. And in case you didn't hear, he's always open.
It's interesting how they've completely changed his usage. I don't know what his ADOT is right now, his average depth of target, but I assume it's very low.
It's nothing.
This is the opposite of what he's been the first couple of years of his career. They're just getting the ball in his hands as quickly as possible and hoping that he can yak his way to yardage, because this offense is broken. Burrow can't move.
No.
They can't do anything. Good for PPR leagues.
Like I said, it's all stat compiling. It's just racking up points, but it's all just on the strength of 2-yard bubble screens and stuff. He said they're trying to get the ball into his hands because they can't do anything else. This is a bit of Zach Taylor's system getting exposed when Burrow can't cover up for all the deficits.
Yeah, it's really capped his ceiling this year.
And not just Chase's, but literally every single piece on that offense has suffered because of it.
The Bengals essentially don't have a ceiling right now.
Is this where we share with everyone that we have the dynasty roster that we co-manage with Burrow and Jamar Chase as our 2 centerpieces?
Yeah, that stack has not been helpful.
Why,
well,
yes.
It has helped us get off to an 0-4 start.
Why, yes, we are 0-4. Thank you for asking. Outside of those big names in Mel's lineup, there was not a whole lot of action. Disappointing day for Tony Pollard. Disappointing day for Zach Moss. continued disappointment for Kyle Pitts. Man, that's what a disappointment Pitts has been for fantasy managers.
It's extra frustrating when you see Jonnu Smith go off for 90 plus yards. And then you see target after target sail 20 feet over Pitts' head and out of bounds. I mean, I don't understand this offense, but Arthur Smith knows Jonnu Smith very well from the Tennessee days. He definitely knows how to utilize him, and he's utilizing him better than Kyle Pitts right now.
Yeah, it's ugly out there. Well, we'll see what happens. Who knows how long they stick with Ritter? Who knows how long they keep Pitts around? If this is how they're going to use him, what's the point?
I'm pretty sure that Ritter will go before Pitts goes.
No, I'm sure. Yeah, no, that's not a question.
The investment there is slightly higher for Kyle Pitts.
A little, just a couple of rounds.
I assume that if they continue to lose, Arthur Smith will be gone before Kyle Pitts is gone.
They're only a game back in the division, though. They've been, they weren't competitive score-wise in this game, but they've been competitive this year. And even last year, they were not that far outside of making the playoffs.
This was really the first week where they just looked awful and non-competitive.
Yeah. And Arthur Smith won't enjoy watching the way this is going either. He waited a long time last year to replace Mariota, but I'm not sure he'll have the same patience with Ritter that he did with Mariota last year. Bit of a down week on the other side of things for Flea. Big games from her top two rookies there, with Richardson and Robinson having 30 and 20 points respectively. Hollywood Brown with a 20-point day, and Matthew Stafford with a respectable 16-point day. But outside of that, not a whole heck of a lot going on.
Yeah, her supporting pieces and bench really didn't do much this week, which is why she had one of the lower scores of the week, unfortunately.
You just mentioned a minute ago to me immediate returns from her on the Cam Akers trade in the lineup there, but only 7.35 points. Not a whole heck of a lot going on there.
Yeah, that's not helpful.
She gets that extra bonus loss this week, which brings her to 4-4. Mel gets the extra bonus win this week, which brings him to 3-5. These are two teams that are right in the mix for one of those last playoff spots right now. It'll be interesting to watch these two in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, when we look at the playoff odds here after these matchups, we'll kind of see a couple of these teams are in this middle tier, right behind the teams that are looking like playoff locks, and then ahead of the couple of teams at the bottom that look like top 3 picks in the draft locks.
As much as I hate to do it because I'm a Giants fan, I'm gonna pile on a little bit more. This is the third week where Waller has been disappointing for the Giants and for fantasy managers.
It's been the Giants' entire offense. They've all been disappointing. They're playing 8 different receivers, so no one's really emerging there from a fantasy perspective. Daniel Jones is running for his life. So they can't get anything going into the intermediate or deep areas of the field, really. They have no running game with Saquon out. It's been tough. I mean, they've played 2 home games and they've lost, what is it now? 65-3, 64-3 in the 2 games.
Just pathetic.
Not a great start for that entire offense.
It would be disappointing for Flea, who traded for Darren Waller back in the early offseason, back in May.
Yeah, we expected him to kind of stabilize this tight end room, but really TJ Hawkinson's the one that's been doing all the work. Hawkinson's one of the highest scoring tight ends on the season, and he had a down week this week as well, his first one of the season. But I think a lot of that was tied to Kirk Cousins throwing under 20 passes.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on to our next highest scoring matchup, where Judd put up a 200.26, defeating Georgia Mike, who put up an 80.58. Congrats to Judd on the highest margin of victory for the week.
And congrats to Georgia Mike for continuing his quest to lock up the 101 in next year's rookie draft.
He's certainly well on his way there. So Judd just squeaks over that median score. He gets the lowest scoring bonus win. Congrats to him. A good day from a lot of guys, but not any gigantic knockout performances. His highest score, in fact, was only the 23.9 from Chris Godwin.
It was really his first down week of the season. He's the number 1 scoring team in the league so far. But this week he didn't have any spike performances, really. but everyone did just enough to get him over the median. He had enough depth in his scoring to get there.
Yeah, and that was bolstered by having Alvin Kamara back in the lineup off his suspension. Christian Kirk with a nice solid game. His only real down spot was his second tight end spot. Cade Otton got into his first with a 12.55. His second tight end was Taysom Hill with a 3.72. These scores where the players have one completion always screw with me. I'm looking to see a 0.5 or a 0.0, and then I see a 0.2, and I go, this isn't a quarterback. What's happening here? The only real down spot being that tight end too. He doesn't get a second quarterback score into his super flex, but the greatest wide receiver of all time, Keenan Allen, was there to fill it with 13.45. So, that's a solid enough score.
Yeah, that was another weird game where Herbert didn't throw very much. He only had about 160 passing yards, and he ran 2 touchdowns in himself. So there wasn't a lot of fantasy goodness for the Chargers wide receivers this week.
It's certainly a strange situation there, but when you get an easy enough win, I don't think you care about the fantasy points. I think they, especially after Herbert's finger injury, I think they just kind of wanted to get out of that game as quickly as possible. Georgia Mike has one of the best games we've ever seen out of Zach Wilson, 20 points in the lineup. Terrace Marshall, 9 catches on 10 targets. I don't know where that came from.
Well, Jonathan Mingo missed the game. He was out with a concussion, so Terrence Marshall took over as the third receiver. And
we've seen Marshall in the
heavily.
lineup. We've never seen anything like this.
He only had 56 yards on 10 targets. It wasn't anything groundbreaking. Just had a lot of short targets that Bryce Young went to.
Keep an eye on that. I doubt it continues, but who knows? Drake London managed to find 3 catchable balls from Desmond Ridder. That's something impressive, I suppose. He got in the end zone, 28 yards and a touchdown. The normal story for Georgia Mike here. He's not trying to score points, but nothing really noteworthy to comment on here.
Yeah, just looking for progress from the young guys. Quentin Johnson had his first big snap share of the year with Mike Williams going down. He still played well behind Joshua Palmer and Keenan Allen. And I know he only had 1 catch for 18 yards, but he was out there a good amount. He was out there on almost every passing play. So they were really only rotating him out on running downs, which we don't care about for fantasy for our wide receivers anyway. So it was actually a promising first step.
So I want to highlight one of my favorite stat lines of the day here. There were 2 that I very much enjoyed here. The first is Jameis Winston went 0 for 1 with an interception, finished with -2 points for Judd's bench. The other one I should have touched on when we were in Big's matchup was Eli Moore with 1 carry for -20 yards. Just 2 amazing stat lines from those guys. All right, so our last matchup to get to was Criddle with a 198.05, just beating out me. And by just beating out, I mean 17 points. I don't know why I said just. It's a pretty good ass kick in there. Beating out me with a 181.31. Nice win for Criddle. He gets on the board. Unfortunately, just below that median score, does not get the bonus win. And on my side of things, I get the loss and the bonus loss. Bonus. Loss.
Unfortunate.
Criddle's day was highlighted by a pair of running backs who basically outscored my entire team by themselves. Christian McCaffrey with a 52.95, David Montgomery with a 36.1. Holy crap.
Where does that game rank among the all-time scores in our league history?
He's tied at number 5. 52.95,
one of the highest.
Ties Mark Andrews from week 5, 2021, back when he was on Mr. Good News' team, before you traded for him. Again, you've traded for and away everyone. That slides into the top 10 all time. One heck of a performance by Christian McCaffrey, and obviously Criddle's probably thrilled to have him in the lineup there. I would like to highlight the difference in running back score. Christian McCaffrey was his RB1. My RB1 was Gus Edwards, who scored 7.15 points. David Montgomery was his RB2. My RB2 was Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who scored 2.3 points.
What was that phrase you used last week? Beat down of the week. That's, this running back room discrepancy was probably the worst one we've seen from anyone this season. I'm not going to fact check that. I'm just going to assume that is accurate.
That does not need to be fact checked. We just marked that down as true.
It was not pretty. Maybe you shouldn't have traded away Cam Akers. You could have used him this week. He would have been your running back 1.
This is an accurate statement. He would have certainly helped my lineup score. I don't think it would have made a whole heck of a lot of difference in the end there. Outside of the running back position and the quarterback position, where Criddle also outscored me, he had good days from Jalen Hurts with a 25.66 and a good day from CJ Stroud with a 24.59. The strength of my team is supposed to be my quarterbacks, and I had just 3 down weeks across the board. Dak Prescott with a 13, Patrick Mahomes with a 13, Kirk Cousins with a 9. Just a tough look there. Outside of the quarterback and running back position, my team had a good day, and outside of the quarterback and running back positions, Criddle's team had a pretty rough day, but just the massive discrepancy there was enough to carry him over the edge.
Yeah, this is pretty much how his team was built. Like we said in the offseason, he's got a very stars and scrubs type roster. So when his big time players score, 3 touchdowns apiece, he's going to put up a good amount of points. Unfortunately, he was still below the median because he really doesn't have the depth that you need in a league like this.
Outside of his big starters there, he had some pretty low scores in the lineup, and in fact, he didn't have 2 tight ends getting points for him. Just a down week for all his tight ends in general. Kittle gets in there with a 3.15, and then his tight end 2 was a 0. It filled in Quentin Morris, but it could have been any of them.
We have to remember to ask Mal how he chooses when it's like a 0 for a position.
That's a good
Does he just
question.
pick whatever
right
guy makes him laugh to put in the lineup?
Well, at this point, if he doesn't
ask him that when you interview him.
At this point, if he doesn't put in Jonnu Smith with a 0, if he ever has the opportunity, I'm going to be extremely disappointed.
Jonnu Smith scoring 20 points a week. He's not getting any more zeros.
He's not getting any zeros. On the other side of things, on my side of the matchup, good days from Jake Ferguson, from Evan Ingram. The only thing of note in my entire lineup was Stephon Diggs with a 38.5 on the back of his 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, he's good. And Miami definitely helped by refusing to move Xavier Howard over there and just letting the other poor cornerback get torched.
I can't figure out why they never made an adjustment.
Some guys just don't like to switch sides. There's some corners who are only comfortable playing one side. It doesn't matter what the matchup, it doesn't matter who they put it over there, which is, great. You're taking away half the field, but they're just going to scheme around you. And Stephon Diggs is going to go off for 120 yards and 3 touchdowns on the other side. I don't know if you're really helping.
It's certainly a decision. Moving over to Dynasty Daddy to take a look at the updated playoff odds. We have a new leader at number 1 chance to make the playoffs. It's now Judd with a 96% probability. He ties JMC, who also is at 96%. JMC was number 1 last week. Shows Judd finishing with a record of 19-9 projected, and JMC at 18-10. So those 2 guys currently projected to be the top 2 seeds. After that, we have some of the usual suspects with my illustrious co-host, Flinch, and Mr. Good News, following up at 86, 83, and 80%, followed by Big at 75%. So those are our current top 6 current playoff projections, all of them with at least 75% chance to make the playoffs. So we're seeing a little bit more solidification at the top here. Our 6th spot has not been as high as 75% chance previously. So Big appears to be getting a little bit higher in those projected odds every week, which is natural considering that he started the season 7-1 and his team has looked extremely impressive.
Makes sense that Judd is now the number 1 odds of making the playoffs. He's the best record in the league and the most points scored. So that tracks. There seems to be, like you said, a little bit of separation into tiers now. The top 6 teams all over 75% odds of making the playoffs. Big's team, obviously the biggest riser week after week. He continues to be the biggest riser. He's now looking like a playoff lock, sitting at 7-1. We have a middle tier here emerging between Flea, Mel, and you, where you're all kind of in the middle, points-wise, record-wise, looking like fringe playoff teams. And then you have the bottom tier with Georgia Mike, Benign Rug, and Criddle, where it's very long odds of being a playoff team. Kind of separating into 3 tiers at this point.
Yeah, that's the easiest way to look at it. And you can even see in that middle tier, Flea and Mel with 30%, 36%, and 31%, and me at 15%. You can see a clear difference even within that tier.
Right. I think your hot start to the season has kind of kept you alive
Yeah.
barely alive, but alive as a fringe playoff team. But yeah, you're the 3rd lowest scoring team. So unfortunately, that doesn't portend well for the rest of the year.
You mean I'm supposed to score points?
Yeah, if you want to win, that's what you should be doing, trying to score points.
I'm going to write that down. I'll have to remember that.
Take notes. This is important.
Yeah, I take notes all podcast long. They're incomprehensible and chicken scratch, but they're there. So I'll just add score points. Got it. I'll write that down. I'll start. We'll open with that next week.
What do you do with these notes that you take during this podcast?
Generally, I throw them away after a couple weeks. I don't actually do anything with them.
Useful exercise.
Yeah, no, it helps me to actually try to organize my thoughts, which is a scary thought because my thoughts are unorganized after the fact. Yeah, so
better than me. I just shout whatever comes out of my head. It's a direct feed from the recesses of my brain to my mouth to all of your ears. Sorry.
Stream of consciousness podcasting. It's the new thing in 2023, everyone.
You've been the recipient of my text message barrages. You know how it works.
My wife refuses to text you or your wife because of the fact that you guys just send stream of consciousness responses.
That's the only reason my wife puts up with it, because she does the same thing.
I do it now because I have to. Otherwise, you're 20 minutes later into your conversation. All right. Anything you want to touch on outside of that for our updated playoff odds?
No, let's get into the interview.
Let's get to it. We had a new manager this week. We had Criddle join us for a fun chat. Hopefully everyone enjoys that, and we will catch everybody next week. All right, so you are our second guest now, so I have to say welcome and thank you for coming on in.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Are you sure about that?
Well, as excited as one can be.
For the 10 person audience podcast.
I've played for smaller crowds.
So I don't know if he noticed this or if you noticed this, but last week we had Flea on and she and I were matched up against each other that week, and this week you and I are matched up against each other. So we're just having my weekly opponent on every time.
Well, it makes a convenient, easy topic for conversation.
This is true. Hopefully we have a better matchup than it looks like, because you started off with David Montgomery dropping 36 points against me on Thursday. It's not what I was hoping for.
It was what I was hoping for, actually. I just, every night I go to bed, I pray to the David Montgomery gods, and just the one time per year he goes off, I have him in this league.
Smart.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of overall my draft strategy is just kind of hope, really. It's the Ted Lasso method.
Yep. Yeah, we're gonna hope that things work out for the best at all times.
Exactly. It's the believe. I have a good stable of guys, just like good hearts in there.
What's the Friday Night Lights one?
Not a Friday Night
Oh
Lights
man,
guy.
what's the phrase that they use? I got to look it up now.
It's probably something about Hart doesn't put points on the scoreboard.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
No.
Texas football, yeah, that's right.
It's clear eyes, full hearts can't lose. That's the one.
Oh,
I've never seen
yeah,
that
exactly.
show or movie.
I never saw the movie. I watched the show. It wasn't bad.
It's a show and a movie?
Yeah.
And a book.
Again, I never
And a
saw the
book.
movie. A book. Jeez.
Really
I'm never
milking
going to
that.
Texas. Actually, it's good to ask here. Where are you from?
I'm
You're
from
Philly,
Philly,
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
all right.
Philly.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So that is why I charge premiums for Eagles players.
Yes, that makes sense. So sad. So
Yeah.
sad. Eagles fans. Oh, I should
You
Hand down to the
hand
Giants.
down to the 42. I can't even count that far back anymore. I mean, it's
Oh man. It was a tough start to the season. We'll just leave it at that. All right. So the first question that we asked Flea is the same first question that we're gonna ask you is how'd you get your start in fantasy?
so it was late night at the bar in college.
Good start.
Part of
Good
my,
start.
Yeah, part of my social club. I was definitely of age, but we were sitting there before a football season, and we were just like, why don't we have a fantasy football league? We all sit here, watch the football games. Let's start one. So I just pulled my phone out, downloaded ESPN, and started commissioning fantasy football. And then from there, I was a college kid with sitting in front of my laptop full time because I was studying chemistry. So it's just looking at spreadsheets. And so it was a natural fit.
So the first league you were ever in, you were the commissioner? You created the league?
I did. Yeah.
That's a good way to start.
It is. It's bold right from the beginning.
I learned a lot very fast. Yeah, we started literally, I just hit standard.
Yeah.
And then we adjusted from there. So we didn't have PPR. We had like one or two tight end slots. It was two tight end slots, two wide receivers, two running backs, and like a 3-person bench. Those rules got changed very rapidly as the season went on. I don't even count those scores anymore.
So this
what's
isn't
your-
your first experience with a 2 tight end league then.
No, well, not intentionally.
So approximately, you don't need it exactly. Approximately when was that?
That was so it must have been 2014-ish because it was right before Cam Newton blew up. Because I remember Cam
Okay,
Newton
yep.
was the first
Yeah, his MVP was 2015. So
I had him on my 2015 roster, which wasn't my first roster, so it must have been a couple of years before that. But he was my first like fantasy darling. Like, oh my god, this guy can really change a team.
That's a lot better than my Aaron Brooks story.
I was gonna say that was your first fantasy. You know what my first fantasy darling was, and this does not give us a time frame at all because it was Frank Gore. So that could have been literally any
he's
time in the
eternal.
last 20 years.
Frank Gore, he's eternal.
That gives a good time frame for how long you've been involved in everything. So how many leagues are you up to now? How many different leagues are you in?
Just three
That's
leagues. That's it. I'm really pushing forward in my career right now. I'm pretty young, so I just kind of let the ones with the good chat rooms ride, and I got rid of the rest.
Nice.
We made the cut. You hear that? Good job, everybody.
Most we can hope for. Did you say you were in a redraft as well?
Yeah, so that's the one I commission.
No, so that's it. All right, I'm looking back over our message. You said it was a keeper redraft as well. Who were your keepers this year?
Oh, so I kept Hertz for a 7th.
That's good. That's good value.
Yeah, we actually do a 1-keeper league. A little bit of a convoluted rule set, but you can keep a guy for the round after you draft him. So if you don't draft him, you can't keep him. You don't have to keep him on your team the whole year, but you do have to have him on your team by the end of the year. So if you trade him away, you got to somehow get him back. So that's kind of the nuance.
I like it. And the 1 keeper makes it, you have to really make a decision. You don't get to spray and pray there.
Right. And then you can't keep the same guy twice. So I kept Hertz for a 7th. He goes back into the pool next year.
You don't want too much of the dynasty aspect where one guy monopolizes someone for too long.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. It's been good churn, good champion rotations so far. So.
And do you have your own title in that league?
I do. I have several titles. Yes. It's the Aqua League of Champions. That's the name of my stringman, is the Aqua Stringman. So we did League of Champions. I also ran a podcast for that, and I called it the League of Champions Podcast, which got some traction from the European football community.
Yeah, it makes sense. With a name like that, you're gonna trigger some search results.
It's good SEO right there. You're gonna get those views.
Yeah, short-lived.
Yeah, as soon as they listen, they realize that it's not about soccer.
Yeah, the ska intro really threw them off.
I still can't figure out every week we post our video and it gets about 22, 25 views. I figure I can identify where 12 of them are. That's the league. Because I always put on the first 5 minutes, make sure everything plays okay, and then I listen to like the last 5 minutes to feel like how did we close things out. I don't listen to the middle section because we've already heard ourselves talk. Nobody
How
need to hear yourself.
Dare you?
So I figured that accounts for one view, but then there's another dozen views that every week I look at and go, who is watching this? Why is it being watched double the amount of people in the league? I don't understand.
It's just big on repeat.
You're probably, if you're called cross coast bias, right? So first you have the United States as the picture.
Mm-hmm.
So you're already being looped into conspiracy theories.
All right. Yeah. The bias in there. Yep.
Yeah. Bias, cross coast. I mean, you're building a following.
That would explain some of the comments that I've had to delete from these videos.
I'm not sure I want that following.
Not from the comments. We definitely do not.
Right. So if you're in that few of leagues, how did you get drawn into our league About Nothing? Who was it that brought you in? Was it Mel or someone else?
It was, I hate to do it, but I can corroborate Big's story.
Oh, come on.
He's part of the recruiting effort. I'm in another themed league, themed to a sitcom, with those guys. So I guess they were just looking for sharks, absolute dogs.
So which
sure we're talking about the right league?
What's the theme of that one? Which sitcom you guys go off of?
That is the Michael Scott Sleeper Bots, a celebrity program league for the cure.
For the cure. Very nice. And what's your team name over there?
Oh. So that's another great chat room. And my team name over there is the Fart Blasters.
Okay. It's not what I expected.
It's a story that involves Mel Crisp's mother.
We're going to have to get that one in chat at some point. If you don't want to share it now, I understand. If you don't want to be the one responsible.
I don't want to miss the details.
Well, we're definitely getting that one. Once this comes out, we're going straight to the chat.
I look forward to reading it again.
We can just ask Mel when we bring him on.
He told it with vigor in the chat. So
Mel does everything with vigor, so I'm not surprised.
How do we feel about Angel Hernandez right now?
Worst something in freaking baseball.
God, it was atrocious.
But I could have told you that years ago.
Not shocking to anyone that he made a bad call and then doubled down on it by tossing the player. I mean, Harper was asking to get tossed. I don't blame him, but.
And you know what? It's not a sport that I care for every single game and interaction. It's a stat nerd sport. If there's ever been a stat nerd sport.
Looking at you, Ryan.
I was like, that explains a lot.
Yeah, try to do a linear regression on NFL stats of the 16-game sample size versus the 182 game sample size times 4 at-bats. Oh, man. That's data.
That's why I stopped playing baseball. It was too easy. It's literally just numbers.
When you can measure every single interaction between players, it's a very different scenario. Whereas, everything moving at once on an NFL or even NBA.
Yeah, there's been a lot of work done trying to isolate individual players' impacts on plays, and it hasn't really gone anywhere to any usable extent yet.
That's what makes football the game that I really focus on, because it's so strategy heavy and the trends change so often, right? So this year it seems like the trend is the zone gapping on the offensive lines, like really creative run blocking schemes that are just busting open these defensive fronts. But last year all these wide receivers were going off on these crazy route trees, and so it's just interesting to watch how the leagues respond to one another. And your player can be the best in any one category, but that's not necessarily going to help.
It's all about how you can get your guy free, how you can get your offensive line set for an advantage, and everything shifts on every single play, so there's no way to measure it one after the other.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes it more exciting.
Absolutely. That's why I still have hope at 1 of 5 and 4% chance to make the playoffs. 4% still a chance. I look forward to etching my name into the trophy.
There you go. I like the
so you're
positive
telling me
attitude.
There's a chance.
The Dynasty Daddy does project you to go just about 500 the rest of the way. You don't have to improve much on what their current projection is to actually get there.
Yeah, it's 50-50 right now, it seems. That's really indicative of my roster, stars and scrubs. So that's just going to be, if I can get a few good weeks from a few key missing players here and there, I'll be good.
It's tough to win consistently in best ball with that kind of build. You're going to have boom weeks when your guys perform and you get some lucky boom performances from your bench guys you're not expecting, but they really have to perform every week if you don't have the depth to cover weekly inconsistencies.
I guess I'm also primed for that Eagles bias slow start with Jalen Hurts leading my offense there. I'm as upset as anybody.
Right. When Hurts starts putting up 50 points a game, you'll be in a lot better position.
One more week. Just one more week, whoever you're playing next week.
It's too late. You already lost this week.
Did you hear the rumor of what was going on with him on Monday night?
Rumor on Monday night?
He had flu-like symptoms.
I did not hear that.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. He was pulling a Lamar Jackson.
So what you're saying is he's not Michael Jordan then?
Doesn't seem like it. He did sign with Jordan in the offseason.
Maybe that's how he got the flu. We are a conspiracy theory podcast.
Red string, Charlie Kelly.
It's been like 26 years since that. I think he's not contagious anymore.
You're ruining our shtick here.
This is a pretty bad shtick right there.
This is our new marketing.
Deserves
focus.
to get ruined.
Here's my platform to the additional 8 people who watch this. Kenny Gainwell, Bones. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. A random fantasy name generator that I used when I drafted him his rookie year. But let's get the nickname going. Bones.
Bones. Okay. I don't know if
need to officially change his name in the Sleeper app.
I will.
I was gonna say I don't know
You can
if
set nicknames for players.
if we have that kind of reach to set nicknames for people. We'll give it a go though.
Let's go. I got my home league. Really pissed off about it. So
is that so? The home league, the one that you started, the college ones, is that mostly Philly guys, or was it out of towners in for school as well?
So it's all Philly guys. They're all guys that are part of my organization.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah, they're
Sorry.
all. Well, no, you're big personalities.
Yeah.
Big personalities. Being scientist by trade, I was naturally predictive to record all of the data as we were going along. So I have historical matchup data. I have team construction owner records going back between platforms because we switched from ESPN to Sleeper. And so the shit talk gets real specific.
I remember being somewhat upset when Yahoo basically wiped their records other than just the matchup scores back, I don't know, probably about 4 years ago, was it, you think?
Yeah, because the league that I commissioned, that I started 20 plus years ago, has been on Yahoo since like 2003. And we lost all of the history. Yahoo just decided you have anything before like 2016, 2017, sorry, just got erased from the record books.
Local backups. Come on. I have a hard copy Google spreadsheet
That's
Well, this
dedication
was-
right there.
I mean, this would have had to be in like pen and paper. I don't know if Google existed.
No,
I think we predate Google with with that league.
the good thing is that it has erased all evidence that Joe Webb ever played in the NFL.
Oh, that's a bad story. Tell that story, please.
I cannot. Yeah, no, I refuse.
It still hurts. It's been a long time.
It's been a
Mel,
very long
Mel,
time.
you need to use the Mama Mel Fart Blasters story as leverage to get the Joe Webb story.
No, I'll tell you. It was I don't remember what year it was. Joe Webb had dual eligibility at quarterback and wide receiver, and it was only a few years after I had joined our home league there, and I was in the finals for the first time, and I had a just phenomenal team. This was I don't remember what format we were using at the time. I'm fairly certain it was PPR, but I remember having a very good team. I can't tell you the exact team anymore because Yahoo wiped all the records. All I can remember is I had LaShawn McCoy on that team, so Philly guy. It was when he was in Philly. I made it to the finals against, I believe it was Jared, wasn't it? No, I think it was
me like I remember. Do you know how many beers ago that was?
Anyway, I think it was against one of the other guys in the league named Jared, and I lost in the finals with him playing Joe Webb we were playing a single quarterback league at the time, a second quarterback in the wide receiver slot. The score in the league at the time, a big week, was 150. I lost with 182 points or 183. I can't remember the exact number. And I lost by less than half a point.
Damn.
And
So the quarterback scoring in this league is
massive scoring.
Ridiculous. Like quarterbacks regularly score 35, 40, 50 points a week. It's a 6-point passing touchdown, point per completion, almost no negative points for interceptions.
No.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks, running quarterbacks are devalued because they don't complete enough passes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a guy in my home league who wanted to do point per carry for running backs, and I was like, all right, then we'll just lose by 1,500.
Yeah, that's a lot of extra points. There's no way for other positions to catch up with that one.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'm still not over that. No. All right. So I have a question that I didn't think I was going to ask. Can you play the piano? I see a keyboard next to you.
I can play the piano.
Nice.
I can play the saxophone primarily. That's my primary instrument. I use this to write music, actually, mostly.
Awesome. What kind of?
So we need some intro music. Can we commission some intro music?
No.
Half joking.
I'm sure you are only half joking. This is a very precious hobby of mine. So that group that I'm part of, the Mummers, it's a very specific band composition. It's primarily saxophones with a snare drummer, a bass drummer, and banjos and accordions. So to put together music that sounds like something is a challenge.
That's an interesting combination of sounds right there as well. You got some really unique sounds coming together.
Yeah, it's definitely, I would encourage you all to look it up on YouTube. Just Aqua String Band Mummers, that'll pull it up. It can only be described by hearing it and seeing it. But we do balance, so it's like an alto for the higher sounds. They kind of take the melody. Then we got some bass and bari saxophones that are like, the bass saxophone can weigh up to like 50 pounds. That's how big this thing is. So we get the full gamut of the sound there. So it's actually like a really old hobby in Philadelphia and a really niche community. You would think that, it's like people wearing costumes and playing saxophones. Like, who cares? Well, there's literally, you could go to stringbanddatabase.com right now and find historical scores going back to like the 50s from PDFs extracted from newspaper records, YouTube links to a lot of every single show starting from like 1970. People watch them, people cite them. They say like, "Oh, remember when this band did this song at this time and this performance?" And you have like they discuss the like this one was better than that one, and oh, when these people did a clown theme, it was better than when those guys did a clown theme. Like it's intense.
This is one of my favorite things is when there's a community that just goes so many levels deeper than I had any idea even existed. And people who are just so intense about it, so care about it so much. It's great to kind of look in on that sometimes, even if it's something that I know nothing about.
You know, that's how fantasy football was when I started. It was
Actually,
very
that's a fair
niche.
point.
And we loved it so much, and we were trying to tell everybody this is so much fun, and people looked at us like we were crazy. And now look at us. Now it's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
I would love that to happen to my hobby because I would be a multi-billionaire.
There you go.
Hey, you're out on the ground floor, you know.
Yeah, exactly. That would be great. I don't know how much of a market there are for men wearing glittery clothes these days. Seems to be controversial.
So
But
Hey, I've seen those shows.
that's
They're getting more airtime than they would have 20 years ago.
fair. That's fair.
we're pro on this. We're
Oh,
in favor
sure.
here.
I saw the chat. We're good. We're good.
So that was actually going to be my next question: is do you do the costuming stuff for that as well? Because you mentioned that in chat. You didn't. If you did mention that you compose as well, I was unaware of it. I must have missed that part. But you mentioned the costuming, so tell us about that as well.
So it's basically how it looks on TV. Like if you watch any of those kinds of shows where like they draw a sketch on a piece of paper and then they like cut the fabric out and they sew it on the sewing machine. That's what I do. So everything you see from start to finish from a Broadway show, let's say, like if you're familiar with that format, so lighting, music, staging, dancing, costume, if there's voice involved, me and my team do every part of it, and being involved in it so it's a family tradition so much as it is a local tradition. So I got involved when I was I guess it was 10 years old. From being that young, it kind of became one of my life's like core values. So I touched really all parts. I don't like to stick to one type of activity. So I have a few book series that I've read, and a few movies that I've seen and a few video games that I've played, you know.
Jack of all trades might be the biggest undersell of your skill set I've ever heard.
Based on what we've heard this evening, I'm not sure.
Yes, I couldn't record on during the week because Monday nights are just gotta take care of the dog. Tuesday night is band rehearsal. Wednesday night is prop construction. So we have a warehouse in down by the river. That is for legitimately where it's located.
This is where the dance parties are?
Kind of. In the wintertime, yes. But right now it's just construction power tools, building stages and structures. So I do that on Wednesday nights. And then Thursday nights we do have meetings. So it's like costume design, and now tonight I'm here.
Oh, glad you made the time. She sounds like you're busy.
Yeah, it's a full-time thing. Yeah.
That's why he told me we need to do it now because like a month from now, 2 months from now, forget it. There's no time. I said, all right, you're bumped to the front of the list.
So one question that I meant to ask before, I want to circle back to now because we got distracted with a potential story from Mel that we're going to have to get later on. Your team name in our league, how did you choose that, and why did you do Soup Guy instead of Soup Nazi?
So, well, that's a chat story. That's a league lore story. If you guys can't remember,
I remember a little bit of it. Yeah.
Well, I'll recall my version. So that's my trick. I dabble in a lot of things, but I have high retention. So the way I recall it, we were talking about our own influences for joining the League of Nothing, League About Nothing, right? Seinfeld references, and I had just casually mentioned, oh, I don't know much about Seinfeld, just like the black and white cookie and the soup guy. And
Yeah.
because I legitimately knew nothing. I was like, oh yeah, it's a guy with soup. I don't know, some sort of soup guy. So that evolved into Guy Fieri, diners, drive-ins, and dives style, denying soup vehemently to customers.
I do remember that from the chat now that you say that.
Yeah, I remember the black and white
definitely
cookie thing as well. I had forgotten that part until you mentioned it, but now that you bring it back up, yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I have since watched more Seinfeld, but again, it's a very long series. I'm like still chugging along.
How do you have time to do anything?
You find it. I started One Piece a couple weeks ago. Like I am a mess.
And a Star Wars fan as well there.
Yes, you spotted my
The
lightsabers.
saber over the right, and it looks like a couple shuttles over your left shoulder there as well.
Yes, I got some shuttles there. Yeah, these are the very expensive Walt Disney World ones where you go
right.
and they put you in a dark room with 16 other people and they say, "Here's the Force. Give us $160."
Seems like a good deal.
Yeah, well, I fell for it twice, so
Twice.
yeah, there's actually two there. You can't quite see the other one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So what colors do you have?
So this one is the one closer to you is mine with the Rancor tooth on the bottom. That's a red lightsaber.
All
And
right.
the other one is a gold and silver High Republic era style green lightsaber for my wife.
Which one's the Samuel L. Jackson one?
I don't have that one out for display, obviously. That's for use.
That's about as much as I know about Star Wars.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was more for my benefit to ask because I'm the Star Wars guy in this crew, I guess.
Huge Star Wars guy, peaked with Andor. I can't watch anything since. I feel we should make a new tradition here at the end of the podcast. We should pit some sort of like a ranking of topics for debate in the chat.
Ooh, all right.
One of my go-tos was like ranking of candy bars, top 3. That usually gets my lively chat fired up.
All right. I'm interested in this. Now, what do we qualify as a candy bar? Like, tell me, does a sleeve of Starburst qualify as a candy bar?
Nope. No.
Okay.
See, a candy bar is a object that it can, when you get the king size, the piece gets bigger. You don't get multiple.
So a Reese's does not qualify in that instance.
Correct.
What about those giant M&Ms?
Really?
Yes, they count. Yeah, well, so they have done like Reese's big cups. So
that's true. They do have those. They also have like the have you seen the pie-sized Reese's cups?
I've eaten one.
Oh my god!
I live in Pennsylvania.
I live in Pennsylvania. Again, I guess I should have seen that coming. How was it? I've never been brave enough.
Sickening. Like just way too much. Way too much.
That sounds about right. I mean, I like Reese's, and I really. Have you ever had like the Reese's bars, like the break ones or whatever?
They're almost like Butterfinger.
Yeah. Oh, see, I don't like Butterfinger. I think Butterfinger.
No, but they're a little less teeth gluey.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I like the Reese's bars quite a bit now. Now, what's your top 3 then? If you're proposing this, I assume you have an answer ready to fire.
Yeah. So my top 3 is coming in at number 3. You got the Milky Way. Solid candy bar. No issues. You just got the chocolate. You got the nougat. You got the caramel, right? The Milky Way is the caramel one, right?
Milky Way is caramel,
and to me, that's what puts it above a Three Musketeers, which is in the running, definitely in the running. But you need 3 things before you really get on my radar.
Okay, yeah, it's just the one thing now with the Three Musketeers, which is strange considering the name.
Exactly. I can't condone it in my candy fiefdom.
You said so. Milky Way at number 3.
You're right. Milky Way number 3.
All right.
Then I got the Snickers coming in solid number 2.
Wait, what's the
Snickers? All right.
difference between a Snickers and a Milky Way?
Peanuts.
Which one has
Oh,
peanuts?
Snickers.
Milky Way has no peanuts, and I feel like Snickers is a different middle as well. Like I feel it's not just the peanuts.
It's peanuts, caramel, and nougat.
I've never had a
Or a
Snickers
Snickers.
or a Milky Way in my life.
Well, you're missing out on 2 of the top 3.
Fair enough. All right, before we move too far from them, I'm gonna educate some of the league chat and annoy some of the league chat and do both to some at the same time.
There you go.
You know why Three Musketeers was named Three Musketeers, right?
I'm unfamiliar.
All right, so you know how it's just nougat in the middle of it right now. There used to be 3 different bars that came in it all together. It was a chocolate one and a strawberry one as well. But we're going back to the 1940s. Wartime rationing, they weren't able to get enough ingredients for the other 2 bars. So they stopped making the other 2 and just made the nougat one. And then afterwards, everyone was kind of used to that. They just kept making it that way. And here's the fun, useless facts you get when you hang out with me.
Nice. That I don't know. I'm gonna find that useful.
I can't imagine how.
Somehow, some way, I'll find it useful. I don't
Fair
know.
enough.
I'll let you know when it happens.
Yeah, you keep me informed.
Number 1 candy bar. Classic Hershey bar. Sorry.
All
Sorry.
right.
Can't beat it.
Again, you're a Pennsylvania guy.
Yeah, it's
I get it.
It's just childhood to me, right? Yeah, I grew up just eating the classic Hershey's chocolate, right? When you crave chocolate, it's Hershey's chocolate to me.
So
And
what
I
you're
get it fresh out the factory. Oh,
so what you're telling us is that your parents didn't love you growing up.
yes. I'm telling you and my therapist that.
Here's a plain Hershey's bar. Enjoy.
No, I'm a guy who enjoys the simple pleasures. And a guy who likes to stir up controversy, because I know that's going to go over like a lead balloon.
Yeah, I'd imagine that's probably not going to be a super popular pick.
Unless it was 1905.
Well, the rules make it really easy to shoot a lot of good opinions down.
So Ryan, you have candy bar opinions for us? Jumpstart this.
Apparently not, because I've never had a
Other than
Snickers
apparently
or
Hershey
a
bars are
Milky
not
Way.
hit.
At least I've eaten a Hershey bar before.
Yeah, see,
by
that's
accident,
the
I'm
real
sure.
the real debate is, once you start limiting it to the candy bars that expand when you go to the bigger size and not just go multiple, it really eliminates a lot of your options. Because I'm personally a big fan of a Take 5, but those just come in multiple little.
That's the Reese's as well, right?
Yeah, it's a Reese's Take 5. It's got pretzels in it.
Take
good.
5. That doesn't even sound real. Did you make that up? Is that a real
No.
thing?
It's a real candy bar.
Yeah, I've never had one. Familiar with it.
I think it's got 5 things. It's got pretzels, caramel, peanuts, chocolate, peanut butter. I think that's it. Yeah.
Sure. This is why I eat only 100 grams, because they have 100 gram things in them.
Yeah.
That's a terrible joke.
Runner up, Baby Ruth, though. Love a Baby Ruth.
All right, so Ryan, no real strong opinions there on your candy bars.
I'm trying to think of candy bars that I've eaten that expand. Kit Kat?
Well, look,
Does that count?
I would say Kit Kat counts. I would say
I think I've
Kit
seen-
Kat doesn't
I've seen
come
big Kit Kats.
differently though. It just gets bigger.
No,
it's all
no,
still connected.
the little snack size bars that you get at Halloween when you get the little handful of candy, and then you get the regular size, and then
Yeah, but that's true of
you
all of
get
them. That's
you do get a few more when you do the king size, I guess.
the king size is
know.
bigger. There's no doubt about that. But it doesn't
feel
split
like it
off and become
expands.
2 like larger versions like your other king size, like your Snickers does.
I don't understand the rules.
They're arbitrary.
Yes. This is the entire point, just to stir up controversy.
It's Calvin ball.
Oh, my 7-year-old has recently discovered Calvin and Hobbes, and she asked me to play Calvin ball the other day.
Oh, nice.
I was like, I don't think you understand.
You really adapted the darkness. I was born in it.
I'm gonna give my 3 on the candy bar front.
All right, let's hear 'em.
If it's got caramel, I'm in. If it's got too much chocolate, I'm out. That being said, I'll go with the payday at number 3 because I do like the nuts. I don't like a Snickers, but I do like the nuts in the payday. At number 2, I'm putting a Milky Way. I really like the Milky Way. I know it gets disrespected in a lot of polls. I see people eliminate it all the time. I don't understand why. To me, it is phenomenal. And in fact, I would even venture to say the all caramel Milky Way is a significant upgrade. Again, I think that's a minority take as well. Top for me, I'm not sure. You might want to disqualify because it doesn't get bigger. It just doubles the number. It's a Twix. I will accept no criticism.
Oh, interesting. Twix. Is Twix a candy bar or a cookie?
No, it is a candy bar. No, I can say it is a candy bar. I will accept no criticism. Thank you, that is all.
I guess you threw Fifth Avenue's right in the garbage. No Carmelos for the big caramel guy.
It's the chocolate in that doesn't do it for me.
Sure, those both are
the ratio is important.
Toblerone. How do you feel about a Toblerone?
I've never had a Toblerone.
It's the fanciest of chocolates.
Yeah, I know. It's the wrong shape. I can't.
Wait, is that the triangle one?
Yeah, it's the triangle one.
I've seen that before. Do people really eat that? I thought that was like for display only.
I've never eaten it.
The only people that eat that is the guy from the 90s driving around in the limo asking for Grey Poupon.
I was on the debate team in high school. In case you guys couldn't pick up on that, I just right on the topics, just riff.
Yep. Yeah, we didn't have a debate team at my school. I tried to start one. We could not get enough interest, unfortunately. So it was just a few of us sitting in a room, essentially reenacting the Monty Python sketch about showing up for an argument, which is not an argument, but
Apparently you weren't a good enough debater.
He was the mass debater. Anyway, I wasn't even just, plain old regular debate. It was the Model UN debate team, and I was the president of foreign affairs. That's nice. I knew for sure that's what I was going to do.
I was also the president of my school's Model United Nations Club.
I went to a poor school. All we had was football.
So you got the debated. You got the debated.
Oh yeah, no, we did plenty of debating, and I also did Model Ledge. We did a lot of debating in that as well, and I did mock trial. We did a lot of debating in that as well. We got plenty of debating. There was no actual debate club for some reason, though.
Yeah, a similar situation. I just shortened. I'm giving you permission now here live on podcast that you can shorthand that to debate team.
All right. Fair enough. I appreciate that.
Nobody actually cares.
I'll know for the future. No one needs to. No one needs to know the specifics of why I was arguing.
I was like, oh wait, debate. Well, then he said ledge. Oh, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. Also, more people have heard of Model UN. When you say Model Ledge, they're like, really? That's a thing? Like, right. Yeah, no, that was a thing. We went to the State House. It was exciting.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yep.
Local government, kids.
I'm not joking. This is not a bit.
Model legislature.
I literally went to a school that didn't have anything.
We had
except a nice football field.
You showed up and you basically
like a Congress.
Basically act like a local government and hold a legislative session. Only you're doing it as high school students, and there's no specific. I don't know how to describe properly here.
And there were high school kids who were interested in doing this.
Yeah.
Yes.
A lot of us.
There are many high school virgins.
Interesting. Interesting. I feel like we had very different high school experiences. Just
so you said you had football. My school didn't even have a football team. So I mean, you're not wrong.
Priorities.
Oh, I was the band. I was marching band. So. There you go.
Yeah, I'm not musically talented. Can't carry a tune in a bucket. It's unfortunate. I'm not bad on the harmonica. But on the side of that, it's pretty rough.
Maybe you should do our intro with a harmonica.
No one wants that.
Blues Traveler style. That guy's from New Jersey.
John Popper.
How do you know that? Of all things.
I know some things.
Oh, what I was going to ask a minute ago was, did you have any questions you wanted to get?
No, I'm good. I look forward to hearing the other league members. Hopefully, I've started a good tradition here with controversial top threes.
We'll have to tell everyone to prepare for that before they come on. Give us your hottest take.
Yeah, there you go.
We appreciate you taking the time to join us. It was great talking to you. I had a lot of fun tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Like I said, look forward to seeing and hearing, maybe seeing on YouTube some clips, but the other interviews, and hopefully getting some more hot takes out there into the league chat. Keep the chat alive.
It's probably the best part of the league is the lively talk in the chat.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Looking forward to more of it.
Ryan, anything you thought of before we get kicked off here?
2 down, 8 to go.
There you go.
I end every work meeting with "Go Birds" because I'm Philly.
I'm sorry, I gotta go. I can't say it. All right.
See ya.
He left.